August 30th, 2023. Accepno Monu Palisensi Ver Frere, a quiet neighborhood in Evans, Utah, a small town in the southwest corner of the state, where everyone knows everyone, where children play outside safely, where nothing bad is supposed to happen. Until that morning, when a 12-year-old boy climbed out of a window, covered in wounds, bound with duct tape, and ran for his life to the nearest house he could find. The neighbor who answered the door would later describe the scene as horrifying. The boy was emaciated. His skin was pale, stretched over bones. His wrists and ankles showed signs of being bound. Repeatedly, over time, he had open wounds, infected, some showing signs of being cauterized with cayenne pepper and honey. He begged for help. He begged for food. He begged for water. And most importantly, he begged the neighbor not to take him back. When police arrived, the boy told them where he'd escaped from, a house owned by Jodi Hildebrandt, a life coach, a therapist, someone who claimed to help families. But inside that house, officers found something that shocked even veteran investigators. Another child, a 10-year-old girl, in similar condition, malnourished, terrified, showing signs of prolonged abuse and neglect. And then, officers discovered something that would shock millions of people around the world. The children's mother wasn't some unknown woman. She was Ruby Franke, a YouTube celebrity who for years had shared her parenting advice, her family life, her strict discipline methods with 2.3 million subscribers on her channel called 8 Passengers. She had built an empire on the image of perfect parenting, while behind closed doors, her children were suffering in ways almost too horrible to describe. This is the story of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt, two women who claimed to help families, who presented themselves as experts in child development, who had thousands of followers. But in reality, they were engaged in systematic, prolonged, and sadistic abuse of innocent children. This is a story about the dark side of social media, about how influence can corrupt, and about how two women convinced each other that torture was love. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to 2015. And sure, Ruby Franke was a mother of 6 children, living in Springville, Utah, a devout member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Her husband, Kevin Franke, worked as a professor. They seemed like the perfect Mormon family, wholesome, religious, traditional, and Ruby had an idea to share their family life. On YouTube, the channel was called 8 Passengers, named after the 8 members of the Franke family, Ruby and Kevin, and their 6 children, Shari, Chad, Abby, Julie, Russell, and Eve. The videos show daily life, homeschooling lessons, family outings, holiday celebrations, meal prep, cleaning routines. To many viewers, especially Mormon families, it seemed aspirational, a large family, managing chaos with organization, faith, and strict discipline. The channel grew quickly, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. then millions. Ruby's strict parenting style resonated with some viewers who appreciated clear boundaries and consequences. She didn't believe in coddling. She believed in tough love, responsibility, teaching children that actions have consequences. And many parents, struggling with their own children's behavior, looked to Ruby for guidance. But even in those early years, there were concerns. Ruby would post videos showing her disciplinary methods, and some viewers found them troubling. In one video, she refused to bring lunch to her 6-year-old daughter, who had forgotten it at home. The child went hungry all day at school. Ruby said it was a natural consequence, teaching responsibility. But to many, it seemed cruel. In another video, Ruby announced that she'd taken away her son's bedroom. He had been sleeping on a beanbag for months, as punishment for playing a prank on his younger brother. When viewers expressed concern, Ruby defended it, saying that children need to learn that privileges are earned, not given. She believed that discomfort taught valuable lessons. Some viewers praised Ruby, saying modern parents are too soft, that children need structure and consequences. But others were alarmed. They reported the videos to authorities, concerned about the children's welfare. But nothing came of it. The videos continued. The channel grew, and Ruby became more confident that her methods were right, and that her critics simply didn't understand what real parenting looked like. Then, in 2020, Ruby met someone who would change everything. Jodi Hildebrandt. And a licensed clinical mental health counselor who ran a program called ConneXions, a faith-based counseling service that claimed to help individuals and families overcome personal struggles. Jodi's methods were controversial. Her philosophy was rigid, and her influence on Ruby would be catastrophic. Jodi Hildebrandt, born in 1971, Aliagao, then Abtai, Pensar, Ensia, Anto, also a devout member of the LDS Church. She had a master's degree in social work. A clinical license, and for years, she ran ConneXions Classroom, a program that claimed to teach what she called principles of truth. Her philosophy centered on personal accountability, distortion versus truth, and the idea that people must take radical responsibility for everything in their lives. On the surface, Jodi's teaching seemed reasonable. Personal responsibility is important. Honesty matters. But Jodi took these concepts to extremes. She believed that anyone who disagreed with her was living in distortion, that children who misbehaved were choosing evil, that showing mercy or compassion enabled bad behavior, and most dangerously, she believed that physical and emotional discomfort were necessary tools to bring people back to truth. But Jodi had a history. In 2012, Pensranti, Benigdan, up until Tuntani, her own niece, Jodi Hildebrandt, accused her of severe emotional and psychological abuse. The niece described being isolated, being told she was evil, being subjected to Jodi's truth sessions. That left her traumatized. Jessie later spoke publicly, warning people about her aunt, but few listened. Jodi's license remained active, and her business continued to grow. When Ruby Franke met Jodi Hildebrandt in 2020, something clicked. Ruby was struggling. Her marriage was strained. Her older children were pushing back against her strict rules. She felt like she was losing control, and Jodi offered answers. Jodi told Ruby that she'd been too soft, that her children needed harder boundaries, that love meant enforcing consequences, no matter how severe. And Ruby, desperate for validation, believed her. Ruby became Jodi's disciple. She enrolled in ConneXions. She began following Jodi's teachings religiously, and slowly, Ruby's content changed. The wholesome family vlogs became darker, more focused on discipline and consequences. Ruby started appearing in Jodi's ConneXions videos, teaching other parents Jodi's methods. Together, they formed a partnership that would justify increasingly extreme behavior. But Ruby's family was fracturing. Her oldest daughter, Shari, had moved out. She'd stopped speaking to her mother. Other family members expressed concern. Ruby's sisters, her own mother, tried to intervene, but Ruby pushed them away. Jodi taught her that anyone who questioned her was living in distortion, was toxic, was trying to pull her away from truth. And eventually, Ruby's husband Kevin moved out as well, leaving Ruby alone with Jodi and the children. This is how it happens. Isolation. When abuse escalates, the abuser isolates the victims. Ruby, under Jodi's influence, cut off everyone who might intervene. She stopped posting regularly on YouTube. She moved her younger children to Jodi's house in Ivens, away from extended family, away from neighbors who knew them, and behind closed doors. With no witnesses, the abuse began in earnest. What Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt did to those children is difficult to describe, but it's important to understand the severity, to know what happened, so that we never allow it to happen again. According to prosecutors and evidence presented in court, the abuse was systematic, calculated, and prolonged over months. The children, particularly 12-year-old Russell and 10-year-old Eve, were subjected to physical torture, extreme physical labor, starvation, isolation, and psychological manipulation. Russell and Eve were forced to work outdoors for hours in the scorching Utah heat, without adequate water, without sun protection. When they didn't work hard enough, they were denied food. For weeks, sometimes months, the children were malnourished. Russell was so thin when he escaped that the neighbor thought he was 7 or 8 years old. He was 12. The children were bound with rope, their wrists and ankles tied. The bindings were so tight and left on for so long that they caused serious wounds. When the wounds became infected, Ruby and Jodi didn't seek medical attention. Instead, they applied cayenne pepper and honey to the open wounds. The children told investigators that Jodi said the pepper was to keep the wounds clean. In reality, it caused excruciating pain and was a form of torture. But the physical abuse was only part of it. Ruby and Jodi told the children that they were evil, that they were possessed, that their suffering was necessary to save their souls. They isolated the children from each other, telling them that their siblings didn't love them. They made the children believe that the abuse was their own fault, that if they were better, more obedient, more truthful, the pain would stop. Ruby and Jodi convinced themselves and tried to convince the children that this was love, that this was what good parenting looked like, that discomfort and pain were teaching tools. They kept journals, documenting what they were doing, not as evidence of abuse, but as records of their parenting journey. These journals would later be used against them in court, showing, in their own words, what they had done. Russell and Eve bore the worst of the abuse, but the other children suffered too. They witnessed what was happening. They lived in constant fear. They were told that if they spoke out, if they asked for help, they would be next. The terror in that house was absolute, and escape seemed impossible until August 30th, 2023. When Russell, starving, injured, terrified, found the courage to climb out a window and run. He didn't know if anyone would believe him. He didn't know if he'd be taken back, but he knew that if he stayed, he might not survive. When police responded to that 911 call from the concerned neighbor, they knew immediately this was serious. The responding officer described Russell's condition as the worst case of child abuse I've seen in my career. They transported him to the hospital, where doctors confirmed severe malnourishment, infected wounds, signs of prolonged physical abuse and neglect. Officers immediately went to Jodi Hildebrandt's house. They found Ev, Russell's younger sister, in similar condition. They also found Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt. Both women were arrested on the spot, charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony in Utah. They were taken into custody, and the children were finally safe. Executing a search warrant on the property, investigators discovered evidence of systematic abuse. Ropes used to bind the children, the journals, both Ruby's and Jodi's, detailing the punishments, the lack of food in the home, blankets and bedding suggesting outdoor sleeping, video footage from security cameras showing the children's conditions, everything they needed to build a case. Police also located Ruby's other 4 children. 2 were adults, living independently. 2 others were found safe with other family members. All the children were interviewed. Some corroborated the abuse. Others were traumatized, struggling to process what had happened. Child Protective Services took custody of the minor children, placing them with extended family members, away from Ruby and Jodi. When news broke that Ruby Franke, the 8 passengers' mom, had been arrested for child abuse, the internet exploded. Former subscribers were horrified. Many said they'd sensed something was wrong. Others felt guilty for having watched and perhaps enabled Ruby's platform. The videos were still up. People rewatched them, looking for signs. And signs were everywhere. Ruby's oldest daughter, Shari, who had been estranged from her mother for years, posted on social media. She said she'd been trying to tell people that something was wrong. She thanked a neighbor who called 911. She thanked the police, and she said something chilling. Finally, my siblings are safe. Finally. After years of trying to protect them, they were out. Ruby's husband, Kevin Franke, issued a statement through his attorney. He said he had been separated from Ruby for over a year, at Jodi's insistence, that he didn't know the extent of the abuse, that he was cooperating with authorities. Many questioned how he could not have known, but others pointed out that Ruby and Jodi had isolated the children completely, and Kevin himself may have been manipulated by Jodi's influence. September 2023. Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt appeared in court. Both women were held without bail. The charges were severe. Each count of aggravated child abuse carried a potential sentence of 1 to 15 years. With 6 counts each, they faced up to 90 years in prison. In their first appearances, both women looked drastically different from their social media personas. Gone were the confident smiles, the put-together appearances. They looked hollow, defeated. Ruby stared at the floor. Jodi remained stone-faced. Neither spoke, except through their attorneys. Both pleaded not guilty initially, but as prosecutors presented their evidence, the case was overwhelming. The children's testimony, medical evidence of abuse and malnourishment. The journals, where Ruby and Jodi documented, in their own handwriting, what they had done to the children. Video and photo evidence. Testimony from other family members. The evidence was undeniable. December 18th, 2023. Just months after her arrest, Ruby Franke changed her plea to guilty. She accepted a plea agreement, pleading guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. In exchange, the prosecution agreed to drop the other charges and recommend consecutive sentences. Her sentencing would be scheduled for February 2024. In her plea hearing, Ruby made a statement. She said, "I was led to believe that this was for the good of the children." She claimed she had been influenced by Jodi, that she had lost sight of what was right. But prosecutors noted Ruby's own journals showed she was a willing participant, not a victim herself, but a perpetrator alongside Jodi. Days later, Jodi Hildebrandt also pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. She too accepted a plea deal, but unlike Ruby, Jodi showed no remorse, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Her attorney read a brief statement, and Jodi remained silent, cold, unmoved. February 20th, 2024. The day of sentencing. The courtroom was packed. Victims' statements were read. Ruby's oldest daughter, Shari, described the years of abuse, the control, the manipulation, the fear. Other family members spoke. about trying to intervene, being pushed away, watching helplessly as Ruby descended into Jodi's influence. Judge John J. Walton delivered the sentences for Ruby Franke, 4 consecutive terms of 1 to 15 years in the Utah State Prison. For Jodi Hildebrandt, the same, 4 consecutive terms. That meant a minimum of 4 years, a maximum of 60 years. The Utah Board of Pardons would ultimately decide how long they would serve, but the message was clear. What they had done was unforgivable. Before sentencing, Ruby addressed the court. She said, "I took from you all that was soft and safe and good." She apologized to her children. She said she had been deceived by Jodi, by her own beliefs, but the judge was unmoved. He said, "You can't blame others for your choices," and sent her to prison. The sentencing brought some closure, but for the Franke children, the trauma will last a lifetime. Russell and Ev, the 2 youngest, who bore the worst abuse, are now in the care of family members, receiving therapy, medical treatment, and most importantly, love and safety. They are learning that adults can be trusted, that the world isn't always cruel, that they deserve to be children. The older Franke children are also struggling. They witnessed years of escalating control. They tried to protect their younger siblings, and they carry guilt, even though they were children themselves, even though they had no power to stop it. Shari, the oldest, has become an advocate, speaking out about family vlogging, about the dangers of social media, about the need to protect children from exploitation online. Kevin Franke was not charged with any crime, but he faces a different kind of judgment from the public, from his children, from himself. How did he not know? How did he let it go so far? It sounds like I'm so bad say that some argue he was manipulated, that Jodi isolated him from his own family. Others say he should have fought harder, should have known. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. The Ruby Franke case raised important questions about family vlogging, about children's privacy, about whether parents should be allowed to monetize their children's lives. Many states, including Utah, have begun considering legislation to protect child influencers, to ensure their earnings are held in trust, to limit how much they can be filmed. Without their consent, Ruby Franke's descent wasn't just about one bad person, or even 2. It was about a system that rewarded extreme content, that gave Ruby validation for increasingly harsh parenting. Every like, every subscriber, every positive comment reinforced her belief that what she was doing was right. Social media can create echo chambers where extreme views go unchallenged, and and become normalized. Looking back, the warning signs were everywhere. Family members tried to intervene. Teachers expressed concerns. Fears reported videos to authorities. But the system failed to protect those children. Child Protective Services investigated multiple times, but found insufficient evidence or were convinced by Ruby's explanations. This case shows that we need better systems to protect children, especially when abuse happens in plain sight. The question that haunts many is how much was Jodi and how much was Ruby? Make them tell. Prosecutors believe Ruby would not have escalated to this level without Jodi's influence, but Ruby made choices. She chose to believe Jodi. She chose to cut off her family. She chose to participate in every act of abuse. Jodi may have influenced her, but Ruby is responsible for her actions. ConneXions classroom. Jodi's counseling service has been shut down. Her clinical license has been suspended. Other families who participated in her programs are coming forward, sharing their experiences. Some describe psychological manipulation, others physical abuse recommendations. Jodi's teachings are made more than just the Franke children, and the full extent may never be known. Ruby Franke built her empire on the promise of perfect parenting. She told millions of people that she had the answers, that strict discipline, unwavering consequences, and tough love would create successful, well-adjusted children. But what she actually created was trauma, pain, and suffering. In the very children she claimed to be helping. A parent's job is to protect their children, to keep them safe, to help them grow into healthy, happy adults. Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt did the opposite. They used their authority, their power over vulnerable children, to inflict pain. They justified abuse as discipline. They called torture love, and they convinced themselves that they were righteous. How does this happen? How do people, especially mothers, who are supposed to nurture, become abusers? Psychologists say it's a gradual process. Small violations that escalate over time. Justifications that become beliefs. Echo chambers that reinforce extreme views. And eventually, the person can no longer see what they've become. But this story isn't just about Ruby and Jodi. It's about 6 children who survived. Russell, who at 12 years old found the courage to escape and save himself, and his sister. That takes extraordinary bravery, extraordinary strength. Those children, despite everything that was done to them, found a way to survive. And now they have a chance to heal, to recover, to reclaim their childhoods. We should also remember the neighbor who answered the door that August morning, who didn't turn Russell away, who called 911, but who quite literally saved those children's lives. Sometimes, heroism is simple. It's answering the door. It's believing a child. It's making the call. That one action changed everything. And Shari Franke, the oldest daughter, who for years tried to tell people something was wrong, who was dismissed, estranged from her mother, but never stopped fighting, or her siblings. She is now using her voice to advocate for other children, to change laws, to protect family vlogging victims, turning her pain into purpose. This case is a warning to parents, to influencers, to anyone with power over children, that discipline is not the same as abuse, that consequences should teach, not torture, that love should never, ever cause pain, and that no amount of views, no number of subscribers, no social media validation is worth more than a child's well-being. Social media has given us connection, community, but it has also created new forms of exploitation. Children performing for cameras, having their worst moments broadcast, their privacy violated for their parents' profit. We need laws to protect these children. We need platforms to enforce those protections. And we need viewers to think carefully about what they're watching and what they're supporting. Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt are now in prison, where they belong. They will spend years behind bars, thinking about what they've done. But no amount of time can undo the damage to those 6 children who carry these scars for the rest of their lives. But children are resilient with love, with therapy, with safety and support. They can heal. They can recover. They can learn that what happened to them was not normal, was not their fault, and was not love. They have a chance now to rebuild, to rediscover what childhood should have been, and to know that they are worthy of real love, the kind that protects instead of harms. In the end, this story is not about YouTube fame or parenting philosophies or religious beliefs. It's about the fundamental duty we all have to protect children, to listen when they speak, to act when something is wrong, and to never, ever look away when a child needs help. To Russell, who was brave enough to run, to Eve, who survived alongside him, to all the Franke children who endured what no child should ever face. May you find peace, may you find healing, and may you always remember that you are loved, that you are worthy, and that what happened to you was never, ever your fault.